call this meeting to order. This is the April 16th, 2026 meeting of the DRB in Essex Junction. We have a relatively short agenda tonight. Anything added to the agenda, Michael?
None from me. I'll go ahead and start with our hybrid meeting script.
Thank you.
The meeting of the Essex Junction Development Review Board has come to order. This meeting is a hybrid meeting, which means that some or all of the public body is meeting remotely, and some are meeting physically at 2 Lincoln Street in Essex Junction, where the public may attend to observe, listen, and participate contemporaneously. One member of this public body or other staff is present at 2 Lincoln Street to ensure the public can participate if desired. Please note that while we will strive to provide means for those attending remotely to participate in the public comment period, there may be technical difficulties or reasons that otherwise prevent or interrupt remote public participation. Therefore, it's important to note that the open meeting law only ensures the public's right to participate and comment at a public meeting by attending at the designated physical location as posted in the notice and agenda. If a member of the public or the public body has technical difficulties accessing this meeting remotely, please alert us by using the chat feature on Zoom or by emailing me at mgiguere@essexjunction.org. And in the event of a technical difficulty that cannot be resolved, we may continue the meeting if necessary to Thursday, May 21st at 6:30 p.m. at 2 Lincoln Street. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting that are not unanimous will be done by roll call vote in accordance with the law. We have all board members in attendance in person tonight, so no need for a roll call vote to get started. And I'll pass it back to John.
Thank you. First item is the minutes, public to be heard. This is a chance for anybody who wants to speak from the public on any topic at all except what's on the agenda. So if you're here to speak on the agenda, wait for us to get there. If you have something else to say, now is your shot. Yes.
I just want to compliment EJRP for all the hard work they do for the community.
Thank you. So noted. That's a wonderful comment.
Could you please state your
Anybody
name
else?
out loud for the record as well, please?
Marilyn Abbott Aldrich.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, off we go. We have just minutes for approval from March 26th before we get to the public meeting. Board members, have you all read and the meeting minutes, and can I get a motion to approve?
Yeah, I do think that some of my lines were attributed to Dylan and vice versa. I don't know that it really merits because they are words of agreement.
Okay. I only had one item that I thought was I don't know how they got translated, but it's in the largest paragraph on page 2, where it's talking about the location of the window wells, and what it says here is attributed to me that the window well could be in the back of the building, so it's not protruding in the front. The protrusions of the window wells are actually on the side, facing the side street, and that was the concern. So I think that wanted to be side, but the front would be assumed to be the Maple Street side, and that's not a problem because that doesn't have the depth restriction. So if that can be altered or reviewed, and we'll see if we can get that in the minutes properly, I'm okay.
Can do.
Anyone else?
Motion to approve the minutes as amended by John.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 That's what I said.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right, public meeting. This is a conceptual review for a planned residential development with 3 duplexes and 8 single-family homes at 60 Old Colchester Road in the R1 district by Sterling Homes Property LLC, agent for Louis Calange's owner. We have somebody ready to speak. Come up and give us your name and credentials, and we'll have you give a little presentation.
Good evening.
My name's Nick Boughton. I'm with Cross Consulting Engineers. I'm representing Bart and Colin Frisbee from Sterling Homes.
And before we get started, I'm going to invite our guests and any members of the public who plan on speaking during the public comment period to take the following oath as required by Vermont Open Meeting Law. Raise your right hand if you planned on speaking tonight on behalf of this application. I hereby swear that the evidence I give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so we're gonna hear a little bit, is there a graphic to go with this, Michael? That we can use to follow along? We have the materials, I don't know if the audience has seen them, but try and just give a brief overview, if you will, and then we'll check for staff comments or clarifications, and I'll let the board after it. And then the public, of course.
Thank you. Yeah, so as John explained initially in the agenda item, this is a 14-unit PUD off of Old Colchester Road, the address being 60 Old Colchester Road. It's accessed off of a private road, all units with exception to one with its own curb cut off of Old Colchester Road. You can, I'm going to start in the top right-hand corner of the property, which is the northeast corner. That would be the first duplex, and that's that curb cut that I just explained, which is the only driveway accessed off of not the proposed private road. As you come into the property, there's 2 single-family homes on the left-hand side, and then the development opens up into a loop. The loop then has a mixture of single-family homes and 2 duplexes around it. Landscaping trees along the road, and then in the center of the loop is a stormwater infiltration basin. We're proposing this as a PUD for a couple of reasons. Primarily, it allows for more open space and recreation space to be provided for the future homeowners of the development. It also allows for an affordability focus when looking at this development. More units brings down the cost per unit to the ultimate owner of each unit itself. It also allows for the units themselves to offset some of the infrastructure required to bring this, for example, the municipal sewer main up Old Colchester Road to this project. The private road was a decision that was made kind of in conjunction with conversation with town staff as the preferred option for a couple benefits to the PUD in providing more open green recreation space to the future owners. Excuse me. There was some comments in the staff report that I want to touch on for a possible north-south road future connections. This becomes difficult when you start looking a little bit beyond this property, primarily to the south, where a large wetland complex that's already mapped by the state exists, that is infeasible to cross with a public street. And then going to the north from the property, just 2 property lines away, it's the town line, and butts right up into some townhomes. So we're proposing to keep this as a single access, essentially dead-end private road. For those reasons, we just don't see large feasibility of future connections to the north or south for environmental and town line reasons. On the property surrounding the units on the main loop is a proposed recreation path, pedestrian path. We're proposing this to be grass surfaced or natural surfaced, winding between the existing trees on the southwest corner of the property and then in the lawn areas elsewhere. There was conversations in the staff report for this being gravel. The gravel in this situation, we don't think changes the use case of this path for how we envision it being used by the homeowners. It's not a through path, and it likely won't be a through path for the same reasons outlined in the private road discussion of the wetlands to the south and the town boundary line to the north. We see that more as a path that's used by the homeowners, walking their dogs, kids walking around, but not necessarily a through path. For that reason, we've proposed a connection to the tree farm across the street. And this would be an additional crosswalk that has town staff support, but it still needs to be vetted through the tree farm to see if they'll agree to that. Regardless of that connection, we are still proposing a continuation of the municipal sidewalk along Old Colchester Road, which will extend from the existing crosswalk further south of this property up to the curb cut of the private street. From that sidewalk, as you turn into the development, there will be a sidewalk along the north side of the private road that will also have a curb in between the private road and the sidewalk. That sidewalk will remain private and maintained by the HOA, whereas the sidewalk along Old Colchester Road will be handed over to Public Works. Since I mentioned the curb, I want to touch on the stormwater. We're not proposing curbing in the development, with exception to the one curb I mentioned along the sidewalk. The reason being, this site is a fairly flat site. There's not much slope on it whatsoever. So we're relying on sheet flow and overland flow to convey stormwater to the center stormwater infiltration basin, with 3 swales around the perimeter of the property, bringing runoff into the center for the infiltration basin. Curbing would cut off that flow, and we don't have the elevation to make a storm drain network work. In the event of frozen ground, when infiltration can't happen, the swale that runs along the western portion of the property would act as the emergency overflow in the event that infiltration doesn't take all of the runoff. However, the infiltration basin is designed to accommodate up to a 100-year storm. I touched on the sewer main that's proposed to extend up from Autumn Pond Way up to this development. It then turns and goes into the development itself. I'd encourage you to switch to sheet C4. This starts showing the utilities. So on the plan, you can see our initial conceptual layout of utilities. There are more conversations we want to have with Public Works on exactly what this infrastructure looks like. It's engineering details that we need to work through. However, this layout is generally what we're looking at for sewer, water, and other underground utilities. All sewer will be gravity. All other utilities will be underground. We are proposing that the sewer and water within the development get handed over to the to the city. Excuse me, I keep saying town. I'll touch on lighting. We're on this plan. Given the size of the development and what Bart and Colin have heard from their clients in previous developments, it would be preferred to have a singular streetlight at the intersection of this new private road and Old Colchester Road. We show one there now. Based on the city regs, 3 streetlights would likely meet the city standards, but we would like to get the DRB's opinion on potentially eliminating the 2 within the development in order to rely on house-mounted lights for lighting that area to keep the light out of windows in these homes. Just given the nature of the PUD and relative spaceness of all the infrastructure. Landscaping, I'm going to have you go back one sheet to C3. We do show a representative landscaping plan down on the bottom right of the sheet. We're proposing 6 shrubs, 6 perennial plants, and 1 tree per lot. Sterling Homes, they do custom homes. A future home owner will come to them and start working with them on a layout. So having a nailed down specific landscaping plan is hard when we don't know exactly what that footprint of the home is going to be. That's why we've showed this conceptual representative layout for a number of plantings. And then lastly, I think I want to touch on the waivers we're requesting. They were in the narrative provided, and I'm happy to answer more questions on these waivers. But they're on page 2 of the narrative. So the first waiver is we're proposing more than 10 units on a single access. The dead-end road with no second access or future connection. I explained why we believe that's warranted here. Approval of the proposed private road, owned and maintained by the Future Homeowners Association. The singular sidewalk, in order to keep a more community feel within the development and not take up extra green space, and curbing only along that singular sidewalk. I think that covers the general overview of this site, and I'm happy to answer whatever questions you may have.
Board members? Any, I have a handful of comments, but I don't know if they're there yet. Staff, anything you want to highlight for us that hasn't been talked about already?
Yeah, so I think that was a great overview of the project as a whole. I'll note for everyone attending that due to the size of this planned unit development, this goes through conceptual review, which is what we're here for tonight. And then at minimum, a second hearing for final approval. So this is not the last opportunity to speak about this project. From a very high level perspective, the first portion of your staff report is asking really a high level planning interpretation. You essentially notice the number of waivers that the applicant has to request in order to get this lollipop loop-shaped road to work for the development, which as proposed works if the waivers are deemed acceptable by the DRB, and we've written the staff report in support of that. However, anytime we have this many waivers, it leads me to believe, okay, what is the LDC trying to encourage here? And in this instance, it's the future connection to neighboring properties, which Nick touched on. So the very first section of your staff report, section 906, asks the DRB first and foremost to make basically an interpretation about, decades down the road, what would we like this area to look like? And in an ideal scenario, this sort of process would be done through the comprehensive plan, through the long-range planning efforts that the Planning Commission typically leads. But the reason we're asking that of you tonight is, again, the Land Development Code is quite clear that when roadways are to be proposed, there should be 2 access points, they should be built to city standards, so on and so forth. I've outlined a number of considerations along of that. The railway restriction restricts this road's ability to truly improve the connectivity from Old Colchester Road or for these proposed homes. So it really does come down to whether the board views the plan acceptable as proposed with this cul-de-sac style loop road, or if the board can envision, 40, 50 years down the road, an opportunity to connect to neighboring parcels to make a more comprehensive neighborhood and a wider road. That decision should be considered now, given that we have this proposal in front of us. I'll also touch on the other subjects that Nick brought up. The recreation path is covered in the staff report in sections 908 and 909. It should be noted, anytime a planned unit development is in front of the Development Review Board, you have the power to require that the applicant dedicate 15% of the parcel towards open space. And open space can be interpreted in many ways, but as written in the Land Development Code, it's meant to be accessible to the public. So while we appreciate the efforts to make the paths accessible to the property owners, want to note that the general intention of the Land Development Code is to make these paths more widely accessible. And in the staff report, we're also recommending consideration of pedestrian easements along neighboring parcels, so that if a neighbor wanted to ever connect to these pedestrian paths, it's a more comprehensive, walkable community network of paths rather than something that's only accessible on one side. So that is what's recommended in your staff report and can be considered when you're looking at sections 908 and 909. We agree with the applicant's assessment that the city engineers looked at curbing specifically and deemed that the lack of curbing as proposed is acceptable, with the caveat that if this road is, if you all decide tonight that T-shaped future north-south road connection is to be made, that road would need to be made to city standards and thus have curbing. It would be a complete reconfiguration of the roadway, but I just wanted to put that out there, that we would require curbing if we reconfigure the roadway. Lastly, lighting plans, of course, are approved by the DRB as a part of site plan approval. We have not received a lighting plan from the applicant. It's not required at the conceptual level, but we look forward to seeing the photometric lighting plan so that the city engineer can make a more informed decision on how to proceed, if that one light at the entrance is acceptable or if more lighting would be needed. Other than that, as Nick touched on, the bulk of investment here is the fact that the city's sewer main terminates at Autumn Pond Way currently. So the applicant is paying to extend the city's sewer service. The city is recommending putting caps along the properties that the sewer line is proposed to pass. So that's a significant investment of the project. I will turn it back to the board for now. May have other items come up, but from our perspective, those are the largest items to consider tonight.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Is the wetland is also a consideration for the desire for another road, like to connect the neighboring properties? I think you mentioned there's like a wetland.
I can, on the aerial in
Yeah.
the staff report, I can point to where that begins.
So isn't that a factor in any future development?
I was going to touch on what I know this whole area pretty well, so I can touch on some thoughts.
On the wetland?
Yeah, well, the wetland, the thing is, you got a railroad and 2A on one side, and you got Old Colchester Road on the other. There used to be places to cross the railroad tracks, and they took them away. Just down the street, it was taken out. So really, in my opinion, you have already two major, I'll call them north-south, access roads now, and I can't imagine sticking another one in there. That's what Old Colchester Road is. And it's, contrary to some opinions, it's lightly traveled for the road type that it is.
Well, I walk there every day. I know this neighborhood very well.
Yeah. They do go a little
and
faster than they're
I think
supposed
I
to go.
probably would agree with some of the people who are here tonight that it is heavily traveled these days. There's lots of traffic on that road.
Goes
Just
too
a-
fast, anyway.
Yes, very
so,
fast.
It's probably, I don't know why it gets so much traffic. It dies into 2A and the high school connection at each end. It's not like it must be people accessing the high school.
High school kids
Yeah.
flying down the
And the
road.
major amenity, forget whatever you develop on this parcel, the major amenity is the tree farm across the street. And so that connection is super important. There are, little cuts through the hedge there all the way along it, but to have one that's planned and accepted by the tree farm would be a real bonus. And it might be it might be nice, or maybe somebody starts thinking about safety along there and figuring out ways to calm the traffic down. I don't know if this is the thing that triggers that, but that's I think that the concerns over the traffic and the safety are probably fair, even if it's not 2A. But I've done a lot of bike riding through there, and I don't like being on 2A. I usually jump over to the tree farm bike path as soon as I can. And I've always been envious of every single property along Old Colchester Road, because the lots are huge, and, I wouldn't want to chop them up with secondary roadways myself, but.
Is the idea, if the road was like added, that it'd be like a T that would just kind of like stop and have, if like down the road or down the line, someone wanted to like add it and swoop it out to hit back on Old Colchester Road, just to like,
Well, it would take the parcels
well, I mean, like,
north and south of
obviously,
it to
they'd
wanna
have
do
to,
that, yeah.
Yeah, as written, the Land Development Code encourages road design to consider future connections to neighboring parcels, is the way it's worded. So in this specific instance, due to the railway to the west, that would be a T-shaped configuration. And again, there are no active applications or plans for development on neighboring parcels. It's just meant to be a consideration of the future. Noting that it does provide access to the rear of these deep parcels is one advantage, but I've outlined in our staff report as well that we tend to kind of agree with the points that have been outlined thus far in terms of the roads.
And I know that the staff, I know that the planning, they always put it in there that they want the connectivity.
Yeah.
But if you talk to the buyers and the people who live places, they would love a cul-de-sac more than a through street. And so I don't really see that in my opinion, we're not gonna try and push for a whole bunch of interconnected roadways. I'm pretty happy with the notion that 14 units are gonna end up on a cul-de-sac and everyone's gonna be happy.
seems like with a T too, in terms of like emergency services,
Yeah.
width to be able, I don't understand, yeah. It doesn't seem like you'd plan it well with housing to also then have a fire truck be able to turn around.
Yeah, so the deal there, and this has been done, say, on the end of Taft Street currently, is that likely we would need to talk to rescue services and public works to understand what dimensions they need to turn a snowplow or fire truck around, and ultimately that would restrict the developable space for homes. And again, with no timeline for how long that T-shaped road would be there, it could be there for a very long time, so.
Yeah. So I did have some questions for the applicant. And one is the double, the extra driveway on 2A on Old Colchester Road that serves the duplex up on the north corner there. That's an efficient use of pavement, but I don't know that's an awful short driveway for people getting on and off Old Colchester Road. I wouldn't want that driveway if I had a choice, you know what I'm saying? That's I would kind of take a look at. I don't think you have other options that don't just add more pavement, but maybe well, I mean, your buildings are set along essentially the same setback from Old Colchester Road as all the rest of them on the street there until you get to the Holden's property.
Yeah, we tried to match that front of that duplex to what the homes were going south.
Yeah. I was curious on the sidewalk. You have the sidewalk extending down the street till you get to the development, and then the sidewalk that actually takes you into the development on the other side of the entry road. So you're dumped into the street and then you pick the sidewalk up again. It seems more intuitive to have the sidewalk stay on the same side of the street and just let people walk around the corner instead of having to go out into the street. I know the geometry in there and where the road is and all that might be something, but that's a little interesting. Maybe it has something to do with where you're going across Old Colchester Road and onto the tree farm, but all things being equal, it seems like the sidewalks ought to connect instead of make you cross another piece of pavement. There are other, I know, so I'm the benefactor of a more recent development on the parcel that used to be where we all walked our dogs next to my house. And one of the things that's always odd is the mailboxes are grouped mailboxes, and you gotta put those somewhere because the postal service doesn't like to actually go to your house anymore. Or you end up with everyone has a mailbox. So I know this is a granular thing to be thinking about, but everybody's gonna stop their car somewhere, they're gonna walk somewhere, and I didn't really pay attention to how wide the streets were at that point. So just as long as you've got a plan for that, and it's probably not up by Old Colchester Road, it's gonna be back in the property somewhere if that's how they do it. And then the stormwater detention pond, I couldn't quite tell, but I didn't make out anything that said fence. So my sense is that's not a fenced-in area, that's just
No.
right? So where I was growing up, we had a street next to us had no houses on the center green, and it was a big play space. It was, all the kids loved it. And it sort of leads into the comment that Michael made already, which is the goal to the open space asked for or required in the PUD is to have it be usable. And I'm not quite convinced that all of that open space that is surrounding the units is really usable.
Can I touch on that?
Yes, please.
So the infiltration basin is designed very similar to Roscoe Court. It will be entirely usable when it's all the time. It's not a detention pond like you're thinking outside of an industrial building or
It's
something.
not 5 feet down there.
No, it's from the center line of the road to the bottom in the middle is shy of 3 feet. And we got a lot of distance to get there. So there's a ring depression that's going to act as the forebay, and then that'll drop into the infiltration basin. So it's designed to be a place where kids can throw a ball or kick a soccer ball around.
Does it always roll down to the middle?
The infiltration basin itself.
Are they gonna want to play soccer in there?
It'll be flat in the center, so the basin itself has to be flat for the treatment infiltration. So that was this system was chosen for that reason.
Okay. So you have the corners, to work with, or you have maybe places where you could manipulate some things so that if some kids actually want to play there, they could. And then the path comment, so that when we approved the development that went in next to my neighborhood, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago now. And by the way, so nobody knew who was going to buy any of those houses either, but they all were purchased before they were finished construction. So, just saying that, we had some comments sent forth in an email, and I don't know, are we supposed to address those, Michael, or just read them into the, or just know that we have them or something, or what?
Rather, so we checked guidelines on, open meeting law typically specifies that in order to participate in a public meeting, you need to be present. But we did get a public comment submitted via email by Jane Davis, which I distributed to board members. So rather than reading it out loud, I'll just
Put it
have
in
you
the
all.
minutes or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least saying this into the minutes will specify that we've received and distributed Jane's comments to you all.
Yeah, there were a number of comments that had to do more with the perceived economics of development at this point, and not really zoning or matters that we're really here for. But I can say that I'm pretty convinced that these units were going to disappear before they're finished building them. People, we didn't expect it in the neighborhood that went next to us, but unbelievable. So, the walking path is great. We had those put in. The idea of connectivity to somewhere else is crucial. The one that happened to go in by my neighborhood actually had several neighborhoods abutting the property, and so this had been used for decades as a paths in the woods, and then it became paths with the neighborhood, and the remaining woods were buffers, but they all had paths and the connectivity stayed, and it's been wonderful. So I would encourage and echo Michael's thoughts on that. If you don't get a vehicular connection, let's make sure that the planning for the pedestrian connections are made and available and obvious, and sort of, wouldn't it be great if, and maybe it'll happen. But we don't want to sort of not make, accommodations for that.
Is that something that would be maintained by the association, or is that path, or?
The path right now we're proposing to be maintained by the association.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think the language between gravel and doing mostly nothing is to make some primitive paths. I think that's the terminology. They did not gravel the one near me, and it gets so much foot traffic that it's irrelevant. So I'm not sure I would need to see gravel on those paths. I think just having some kind of a maybe if they don't get enough traffic, maybe they just get mowed once a year or once every whatever, so by the HOA. But there should be some concept of maintenance of the pedestrian paths ultimately when we see that. The street lighting, and I'm just opining, right? So if anybody else has something to say, go ahead. But my biggest problem with residential development is they all come along and they put up their garage lights, and the garage lights don't comply with the dark sky rules. So yes, they do show, light up the neighborhood, and that's kind of a problem because you glare, they're just obnoxious. So I don't like the neighborhood lights either, because if somebody's kind of a light sleeper, those can be a problem. So somewhere in there, I don't want to see people's garage lights become these floodlights for the neighborhood streets. That's not helpful, but we've always kind of been fans of the two-tier lighting system where the lights might dim at 10 or 11 o'clock at night or something, but they don't necessarily go off. But I think there's some flexibility on that. But I would think that our dark sky compliant house mounted driveway garage lights should be also regulated the way they're supposed to be, and not somebody comes along and sticks up the the really friendly motion activated floodlights, right? Those are worse. And somehow they just keep showing up. So anyway, those are my general comments. I did want to point out that for those of you that wanted to do the math on the density, Michael covers that on page 3 or 4 here, 5 somewhere. It mentions that in the R1 zoning district, which is the underlying zoning districts of the PUD here, if you do the math for lot size and number of units, which is 4 units per minimum size of 1,500 square foot lot, and you do the math with 3.15 acres is which is how big this lot is, you could have 36 units on that. 36 units is what would be permitted by code. And they're proposing 14, right? So the math is 3.15 acres divided by, well, he's done it for us, 11.6 dwelling units per acre, so that times 3.15 acres. So you get 36. So you could have 36 units. They're proposing 14, which seems pretty light to me in terms of if you're trying to say this is a, unbelievably dense project, it's really not. So I'll turn it over to the rest of you. Those were my kind of big comments at the.
I mean, I just had a comment on just the sidewalk, and that I also felt like that driveway, the one on the duplex, like I feel like, I don't know, I like,
Be a lot cleaner if it wasn't.
yeah, and I just think that I thought we were trying, in the city, we're trying to promote sidewalks as much as we can, especially, like, I know then it ends there, but still, I just feel like if there's a way to like, something with that one,
Everyone
yeah.
in the development's going to be walking in the street.
Yeah, it just
Feels
seems like,
there should be a sidewalk somewhere.
I think if we want this to be, the development needs to fit into like a part of the city and make it welcoming. I feel like the more sidewalk.
So just to clarify, are you asking for a sidewalk on the proposed loop? road?
No. I understand why
I am.
that is. I mean,
I would.
or on one side, but I was actually talking about the
side. One
sidewalk
side is fine.
continuing up in front of the I don't,
Oh,
that
like-
driveway.
Like it's going to keep going.
keep going on the
Yeah.
main road and get rid of that
Up Old
driveway.
Colchester Road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Got
whole
it.
length of the property.
But also get rid of the driveway on, like, do something with that duplex. That duplex is a problem.
Williston,
Change the orientation.
Williston started asking everybody who had any project anywhere to put in a sidewalk.
Well, I mean,
No, no,
I don't know,
and-
you can walk.
And it looked
used all the
so
time,
weird
exactly.
for a long time, but as every
Everybody
property
uses
gets
them.
developed, it starts to make sense,
Yeah.
and then
Is that
Then you
just
have
if you
some.
subdivide, they have to?
I thought in another project we had, we like had
We
to,
had
well, this would be a subdivision
Yeah.
if they didn't do a PUD.
Right, but isn't it
didn't we
when,
like
if they subdivide,
encourage,
we
wasn't
make
that
them
a
do the sidewalk?
requirement?
And if they develop the parcel, we make them do the side. So there's some
Yeah.
development, give me a trigger and we're gonna make a sidewalk happen, because the ultimate goal of pedestrian connectivity
Yeah.
is
Is a sidewalk.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was we needed to encourage that in the city and any development. Yeah,
And
I agree on the sidewalk.
yeah.
Yeah, same.
And just pointing out that if we required this access road to be a public road and built to city standards, that's when curbs and sidewalks are required.
Yeah.
Because this is proposed as a private road, the developer gets to choose dimensions with input from the city staff and engineer.
And so can I just,
I'm
Claire,
less
can I,
concerned about a curb.
before I forget what I'm going to say, is it, so it seems like the city prefers the private road in this case.
Yes, there's like, it's a pretty neutral decision, but I think it has, it slightly shortens the plowing route for the city.
Okay, so, and that's really the reason.
I wouldn't say it's the
Yeah.
reason. I don't think
Okay.
there's a strong preference, but given the other goals of this project in terms
Yeah.
of flexibility of this access roadway, a private road makes sense.
Okay.
So, just to clarify, so the sidewalk, maybe along the main spur there, but I kind of hate making them put in curbs just to, just because you have a sidewalk. If the sidewalk's not on the edge of the street, it doesn't need a curb. Right?
Yeah, just to be clear, we are proposing curb and sidewalk along that.
Yeah, because there's nothing, where
Right.
you've got the
Yeah.
sidewalk, there's no
I
strip
just didn't want
there
there to be
to
any
protect
confusion.
anybody. Your dog falls off the edge of the curb, he's in the street, right? Yeah, your child falls off the edge of the curb, they're in the street. So if the sidewalk separates from the edge of the street, then I say the curb requirement becomes less significant. And frankly, I've seen people go back and forth, somebody's got a city standard that says, oh, I gotta have a curb. It really changes the character of the neighborhood significantly once you do that, so. I'm not a big fan. All right, anyone else on the board with more?
Yeah, I guess I'm still not satisfied about the north-south connection. That, are we saying that there is already no chance that a north-south street would ever be built along the railroad.
I'm hoping. No north-south street would ever be built next to the other two that are already there, plus the train tracks.
That there's 0% chance that these long lots, and I mean, I think the owners of the lots are here, if they're like, yeah, there's 0% chance that we would allow our lot to be divided, then there is, I think that kind of moots the idea of the T intersection. If there's already no chance of the north-south road, then there's nothing for us to waive.
Yeah.
If there is a chance, though, we would be forever terminating that chance.
So I'm swayed by the notion that couple of properties to the north, you hit the town line and then you have no control. And a couple of properties to the south, you hit the wetlands and you're not doing anything there. So
there's really no
you would be essentially sacrificing
13%.
somebody's, deep lot to get back to this road. And then it runs somewhere and then has to come back out again. So, if you had if somebody came in with, and this has happened, they buy up, 6 lots together, then you might want to think about doing that, right? Because it's now big enough to possibly benefit from that road. But the way development works here, where it's usually one lot at a time, that would be extremely hard to pull off.
Yeah, well, and I would think if
You would have to impose the fact that the city wants the road,
yeah.
which doesn't show up anywhere. It's not part of a plan. There's nobody's pushed for it. So I'm not willing to say, okay, first guy in, you have to start this beginnings of a road that doesn't exist yet.
Well, so, I mean, I think the thing that I'm concerned about is in the town along, I guess it's current Colchester Road, there are a number of lots that were bought up and then subdivided and then developed very similarly to this, and none of them connect to one another. And so the town could have had a very reasonable grid pattern that would allow for a lot more housing and less traffic. If there's 0% chance of that happening, then there's not much to talk about, though.
It's never going to be 0%, though. There's always a chance.
What?
I think it's just realistically, in my mind, with the factors in play, the railroad, the wetlands, the town line, the size of the lots, the owners of the lots, it doesn't seem like it would be a realistic project. Someone could fight for it.
Let's get some comments from the public, and then maybe we change our minds, who knows? Thank you very much, Nick. Dan's got his hand up already, he's chomping at the bit. You're gonna have to change places with Nick there, or come up and sit next to him or something. We need you up at a microphone.
Our other option is to move this microphone over here.
Oh, yeah, I can do it. Can I actually ask Nick just one other question? So are these, am I understanding, are they like build to suit, like the person buys the land, like they'll buy the lot, basically?
Sterling, yes.
And then they
Sterling
can-
works with a buyer.
Okay, and they can do whatever they want with that then?
Yes.
Could they change the single family into a duplex?
Sterling won't do that because
Okay.
we're proposing a single
Okay,
family.
so it's-
So it would
okay.
be a single family.
Okay.
But the,
But the duplex would be the duplex?
correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And I think the state of Vermont has deemed that if somebody wants to make their single family a
Okay, that's
a
right, yeah.
duplex, then they can do it, but it wouldn't be
It'd be-
Sterling.
Because
doing it.
it's hard, because it changes, like, if you, as the DRB, we're approving what we think is like a neighborhood. Not that a duplex is not part of a neighborhood, but it's like a different feel if it's a neighborhood of duplexes or multiple units versus single-family homes.
So they're gonna present an HOA with rules and
Yeah.
regulations before this is all done.
Yeah.
And so we actually have a chance to
Yeah.
have
Okay.
some control over that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay, Dan, introduce yourself for those people that don't know you and for the record, and off you go.
Okay, thank you. My name is Dan Maxon. I live south of the subject parcel, 2 lots, 2.5, 54 Old Colchester Road. Brown house with the chickens. So just a few things to talk about, some of the things John mentioned earlier. Traffic calming on Old Colchester Road. It used to be there, the village tore it out, so that's not gonna.
No kidding.
And the crosswalk, the second crosswalk proposed to go over to the hedges, that will, I can almost guarantee you, become a safety hazard. The crosswalk that's in front of my house, when there's anybody at the soccer fields, that's an unload zone.
Yeah.
No amount of signage will change it, and it just happens. And up there, you've got cedar hedge right up to the road, so the cars can't even pull off, but that's pretty much a nonstop thing. There's kids in gears and wagons and coolers and lots of
And it's not the normal day, this is tournament weekend.
No,
and
this
all that
is
kind of-
any time, any day,
Anytime?
any evening. There's soccer there almost every evening. It happens all the time. Kids waiting in our yard for their mom to come and pick them up. So, yeah, that's not a good idea for the public, at least.
Yeah, to the extent that we have the ability to help with that, I think we can try. It's, I'm gonna say it's an enforcement issue with the tree farm, which nobody wants to, I know that's a cop-out in a way, but having been on both sides of that, I haven't lived there, but, I've been trying to go to soccer stuff and coaching there and driving through there a lot and picking kids up, and I have seen what you mentioned. It does
Yeah.
happen.
It's pretty ubiquitous.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, it's not, I'm not saying it's a problem. We live with it, and kids are over there having fun. It
Well,
doesn't
there's-
bother me,
there's
but
a
it is
safety thing,
concern.
yeah.
And, I don't know, we had cops ticketing 200 cars on that road one day. Fortunately, those days are past. But it's just, I don't think it's a good idea.
The tree farm has improved their working with,
Hugely, yeah.
Yeah.
but it still happens.
They're
So-
really good.
So there is I can see it just at the bottom of the slide there, a crosswalk in front of your property to go
Yeah.
across. I think I've used that a lot myself, actually.
I use that every day.
No,
What's
it's like,
the main
I'm-
one?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the only one. I mean,
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
yeah,
I walk that route every day.
and the
So I
cars
go buy
don't
your
really
tickets
care that,
in your house.
yeah.
yeah. I mean, it
You
is
gotta
what
be
it is.
looking.
Yeah, and it is, I agree with
I
the,
mean, I love it there. I'm glad it's there because
yeah.
makes any other sidewalks redundant because you've got a perfectly fine connected path all the way from the city to Route 2A. You don't
Yeah.
need anything else
Right.
out there. But to my comments that I brought, I prepared some notes. I've been looking at this thing almost daily since Saturday. And there's a lot of talk tonight about the LDC, and there's 3 documents, though, that that you guys are supposed to consider, right? You've got zoning regulations, you've got the development code, and you have the conceptual plan for the city. I want to get to the city's plan, because that really, I think, is as important as any, let's look at the forest before we go down into the trees. And so I'm going to read housing goal number 1 from that plan. And I have written copies of my testimony, so you don't have to take notes too diligently. Housing goal number 1, provide a variety of housing opportunities while creating and preserving quality residential environments and existing neighborhood characteristics. And it's the existing characteristics of the neighborhood that I really want to get at. And this neighborhood really starts, you cross Autumn Pond, then you're kind of in our neighborhood. Climb the hill. On the right, you've got the cemetery, you've got the soccer fields. On the left, you have 11 parcels of land. 3 of them are about this size here. 5 of them are less than an acre, probably the minimum 1/3 acre. And the other 3 lots are 1 to 2 acres. So there's 10 developed lots. Each of these lots have 1 single-family residence home on them. And that's 11 acres, I think, or so, guessing. So you've got one house per acre. It's pretty rural out there. I mean, it feels very rural for those of us who live there. And in addition to the dogs and cats in the neighborhood, there's chickens. We got chickens. There's bees. There's vegetable gardens, and and all of those single-family homes too are lined up against the street. You guys mentioned that for the duplex and the other one, but those are the only houses on the lots, right? I mean, that's it. There's houses on the street and there's deep backyards. So there's also in the neighborhood throughout, there are minimal streetlights. All of them are in the public right-of-way. The sidewalk and the curb end less than halfway through the neighborhood, right at that crosswalk as we discussed. And I think that's fine because there's a safer, nicer path. So today we have those 10 houses on 11 acres. I think if there's one characteristic that defines the existing neighborhood, it would be it is a low-density, single-family neighborhood. That's all there is out there. That and one vacant lot. So I really want you to consider that in the context of the housing goals of the plan. Now, the characteristics of this proposal compared to that, there's 14 homes compared to 10 existing. There's an interior roadway, streetlights, virtually no yards. The only significant open space is dedicated to stormwater infrastructure. So there's no opportunities for chickens or bees or vegetable gardens. This is not a low-density, single-family home proposal. It doesn't preserve the existing neighborhood characteristics. And in my opinion, this proposal fails to meet the first goal of the comprehensive plan. Oh, and another thing I was going to mention, I can understand why the city is willing to waive the public street requirement because the city doesn't even plow Old Colchester Road out there. City turns around at Autumn Pond and goes back. We get plowed by the town. It's not very high on their priority, which kind of adds to the ruralness of the neighborhood. So,
That doesn't even seem fair.
pardon?
You're in the city and the city doesn't plow it, the town does?
No.
It looks like a dirt road all through
Yeah.
the whole winter. And
There's
I
been
have
yeah.
I fall off the road on a regular basis because it's covered with ice.
Yeah, they don't plow.
They don't plow it. The town plows it.
Can't get them to
And
plow
I've
it.
called the
Never
city a
do.
couple times on the job that the town does. I mean, I'm out there shoveling snow 6 feet into the roadway to get my drive, to get out to the cleared way. And I look up at Autumn Pond and whoa, Colchester Road's bare, shoulder to shoulder, so.
Yeah.
This is really, truly, this is a forgotten zone. This is a kind of a little corner of the city that isn't the city. And talk of future T roads and everything else, it's not in the plan, it doesn't exist, right? What does exist in the plan is the importance of preserving the character of existing neighborhoods.
I did notice, and I'll let you continue, but I'm gonna put Michael on deck here, that I was a little confused when I first thought it was coming in as a PUD because, you can submit things as PUDs. It does seem to work, but we've had requests to change the zoning in this area before, and they've always been shot down because of the overall sense that this whole street had its own character, and it was, we weren't gonna spot zone it. So this is kind of a way maybe to work around that, and I just thought if you go and, first thing I did when I saw this application was I went and reread the definition of R1, which is to provide space for large lot, single-family homes. And so that kind of, I just was a little stunned that we were gonna be able to even look at this as a PUD, given the, the nature of the underlying zone and what it's for. So I need some help getting through that, and that's what you're on deck for, because I know it's, I don't really have an issue with the development, but I would love to know how we get to do that, because it seems a little
Sure.
antithetical to the statement about R1 districts. All right, keep going.
Yeah, antithetical to the to the plan. I mean, you know, these town plans, they get, you know, it takes 3 years to write a 5-year plan. I've been involved in all this. You guys know this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it is the only opportunity where the public really has an input onto how these things go.
Yeah.
And, you know, we can go through code section from here to the end of the book and make this thing fit. But that's not going to necessarily satisfy the plan. And that's the point that I want to make, that I believe that your decisions need to be based on those 3 legs of the tripod: the plan, the zoning, and the development code. And so when you can show me how this maintains and encourages and enhances the existing characteristics of the neighborhood, I'm more than happy to sign on. But I don't see it.
Okay. Was there more, or is that,
I think that's it.
that's the general gist is a big one?
It is a big one. I
Yeah.
think that's what plans deal with. You know, we're at the forest level here. We're not down in
Yeah.
the trees. And if you're not consistent with the plan, you're not consistent with the plan, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I will provide written copies
All
too.
right, thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity
Can I
to
ask
speak.
you a
to
question? Just for my own, it's separate. You mentioned that the city you had traffic calming on the street and the city took it out.
Yeah.
Is
So,
that,
the day after within
Where
a
was
week-
it?
It was right at that crosswalk.
and what was,
Was it within a month after we moved in there? That crosswalk was elevated.
Yeah.
It was a hump.
oh,
and it was-
okay.
Like
And so
brick.
why
And
did
there was
the
a
city do
divider
that?
there, yeah.
Because the
Took away
town
our
complained about
homes,
it during
too.
snow removal.
Snow
that
plowing,
they
yeah.
would whack it.
So it's-
Oh, the town
And
complained
I'm
it, but the
still
city
wondering
removed
why
it?
the town is plowing it.
Well,
Because the city does the sidewalk plow and the town does the snow
Yeah.
plow.
No, is this some kind of
It's a-
arrangement?
it's a
That
trade.
seems
yeah,
like-
it's the trade-off. We go,
Seems like a-
the city goes all the way out, like the city will come up the sidewalk, cross into the tree farm, and the city does the entire pathway, right? So the city does the pathway out to Route 2A. In exchange, the town does our section of the road. So the city turns around at Autumn Pond, the town turns around at Autumn Pond, and the city's payback, I guess, you know.
Is that they take care of this.
Yeah,
Seems
you know,
like
and this
the-
is,
Because otherwise, there's no way the town's bringing
Yeah.
a sidewalk thing down there. because-
right, you know, because what, they come halfway to the soccer field and do a K-turn on soccer
It
field
seems
11?
like if we could have a comment, just that maybe the bike walk and the safety committee or whatever could look at that, because that seems like the city should be promoting safety. And I don't know, that's just my,
On the traffic calming implementation
yeah.
specifically?
Yeah,
I
like
don't, I
somebody
don't,
should be coordinating that.
The guy that owned my house before me, Mr. Holdweedle, was a police
Oh,
officer.
that's the one you're.
Yeah, that's where he lived, and he had it put, this is what the guys in the street told me, right, you know?
Oh, okay.
Like, he had it put in because people were zooming through there.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, we noticed a difference. I mean, we were there like a month and they started tearing, well, we moved in November, so the following summer, they tore it out. And there's been some increase, and there's a little bit of a bump there, and we still do get some slowdown. I mean, I'm still glad it's there because people do slow, I mean,
Yeah.
it gets acknowledged. It's not like, except for when school gets out, you know, it's pretty
Yeah.
good. So,
Okay, thank you.
anyway, so, thanks though for giving this opportunity to talk. It's,
Thank you.
so,
Anyone else in the audience? Yes, sir.
Yeah, hi, this is David Milton. So can I talk at this point, or you let me know?
Yep, sure. I can't really, we've got something up on the screen, so we didn't notice who was on there, but yes, please, go ahead, Dave.
So David and Michelle Holton, I'm sorry that we weren't there in person tonight to meet. But as you know, we live to the north side of this development. And per se, we're not against having housing developed on this land. We are in a residential area, we get it. But very similar to the previous comments that were made, we think this is completely out of character for our residential area. By the way, there's more than 11 acres. Those 10 or 11 homes are probably on 15 or 20 acres. So when we were hearing earlier, if you do the pure math of, you know, dividing the number of 3.1 acres and, you know, 1,500 or 15,000 square feet, 1,500 square feet per lot, you could put 36 homes. Yeah, that's the slide rule, you know, equation of putting a development together. But there is also the need to look at the character of the neighborhood that we live in. And we feel like we're a little bit country next to a nice city. And we have the tree nursery across the street from us that gives us the rural area. And this lot's been empty for 40 years. Obviously, it should probably be developed, but not with 14 homes. It would just completely change the characteristics of our community. The other part is you mentioned the traffic, and the traffic is actually most noticeable in the morning, in the early afternoon or late afternoon, with the kids coming to school, to high school. It's mostly the kids coming from the islands or from the town coming down our road. But if you add another 14 homes with more traffic, you're just adding to an already overused road. This is a small little road. It's not like Route 2A. There's no center line. We all walk across the street to get to our mailboxes. We all have dogs. We all have little children or grandchildren. It really scares me a little bit to have an additional 14 homes with the additional traffic that would be on that. I do think this land needs to be developed, and I'm not against the development. I'm more encouraged if you would look at the size of the homes or the size of the lots to be more in character with what's already there. We love our backyard. One of the things that concerns us is the screening and the separation of this development and our home. We're on 3 acres of land ourselves with 1 home. They're describing here, 3 acres or 3.1 acres of having 14 homes. So that's a complete paradox of what we have in comparison. And we're a friendly neighbor. I mean, we're not anti-neighbor, but at the same point in time, we're protective of our property and want to make sure it stays intact. So I'm not anti-growth. I'm not anti having somebody come in and want to build some homes, but I do think the road and traffic concerns are real. I think the characteristics of the neighborhood, the density of the neighborhood are very real. It may be, as you said earlier, it may be, when you put the slide rule to it, it maybe have 36 homes. I get that, but that's completely out of the characteristic of where we are, where we live. Interesting. You're funny how we do that. The town of Essex does plow our driveway, plow our road. They knocked all the mailboxes this year, and they put them all back up for us. So that was good of them to do that. But anyway, that my concern here is the density and the road traffic. That's my big concerns here. And I appreciate the hard work that you good folks do. Things like this are difficult to manage. But I would ask you to be subjective and think about the characteristics of the community and the road traffic in your decision making. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're back to the, if someone else is online, can you?
Yes,
check and see?
Finn, you have your hand up if you want to speak next.
I think that
You can
this
sit down
gentleman
there.
was next. Or-
Hey, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, so my name is Finn. I'm on the Essex Junction Planning Commission, and I'm here to give my support for this development. As we know, Essex Junction is not really that big of a city, so we don't really have a lot areas to expand outwards. So developments like these don't come up every day. And I would like to say if we have less homes to improve the character and stuff, we won't have as many homes in our city. And I'm worried that the housing crisis and the prices of homes will continue to go up. And I kind of want to try and avoid that. So maybe just, I don't know, adding some trees or something could help with improving the character. As far as the safety goes, maybe putting some RRFBs on the crosswalk, by that road might help with the whole safety aspect of things to like improve pedestrian access to that area. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna go to the gentleman in the room here. Introduce yourself first and.
Mark Logan. I'm on 56 Old Colchester Road. I abut up to the property.
Yep.
Just to reiterate what others have said about the character of the neighborhood, there was the whole reason I purchased there over 20 years ago was because it was a rural feel. And this development will turn it, at least for me, and I think the others that have spoken, it'll destroy that feel. It'll be gone completely. There'll be no privacy in my backyard. I'll have everybody looking over the fence. It's going to bring more light pollution to my yard. I wish there wasn't a street light in front of my yard. I wish they'd take it out, but they won't. And I see too as another issue is the fact that it does impact safety on that road. The amount of traffic that has dumped into that road since they changed the railroad crossing is unbelievable. We'd see a few cars a day when we first moved in there, even with the development that was Thasha Lane originally. And high school, they didn't travel it because of the railroad crossing. Now we've got all of that traffic. People come, they use it as a shortcut. Instead of getting on to Route 2A down past the high school from where I'm at, they come up my road, up the old Colchester Road and dump out at the north end. So the traffic pattern has changed completely from what it was when I originally moved in there. And I won't get started on soccer fields. The nightmare that we've gone through, the people that live across from it, since that's gone in. It has gotten better, I will admit, but there is absolutely no way we can stop people from stopping at the ends of our driveways, blocking our driveways, dumping kids out, and that type of thing. And that's a real safety issue. When they took that island out that was there at the crosswalk,
Yeah,
it got 10 times worse. Because if they did that before, you know, that was taken out before the things went in. But if they tried to do that now, traffic couldn't pass. It would stop everything on the road. I would love to see that put back in, regardless of whether the development goes in. You know, other questions I have is fencing to keep people off of my property and other people's property there. Whether it's going to be a privacy fence, chain link fence. Now, we in the neighborhood, we look at it as a rural area, and we get along very well together. My neighbors have chickens, I have bees. I can see having to get rid of those almost immediately because of the density of what's beside me. It's going to affect my life tremendously. Trying to think, there was another thing I wanted to bring up also. Oh yes, if they're bringing the sewer down the road, is the town, the city, going to require that we all tie into it? And if so, who's going to pay for that? Now, you say no right now, but I know how those things change. I've approached and asked if I could subdivide my back piece of property and put a right-of-way into it if I leave here. And have 2 half-acre lots. And they've told me absolutely not. If you're going to allow development like this next door to me, how can you deny me being able to make 2 half-acre lots versus these, I don't know how many are on that, to 14 on 3 acres? Those are concerns I have. And it just is, to me, I don't mind it being developed, but I think it needs to be kept in character with what we have. Minimum of a half acre for each home. You know, so it maintains the character of the area we're in. That's pretty much all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good evening, I'm Scott Aldrich. I live at 52 Old Colchester Road. I live at across the street from the cemetery. We had a house fire last year, so I got 3 shipping containers in my yard.
Oh,
If
okay.
you've driven,
Yeah.
walked by, or driven by,
Every day.
that's my house. So I am right at the apex, along with Dan,
Right at the
for soccer oppression every time that there's kiddos across the street. I love the fields. The fields are great. I'm not trying to complain about them, but from my perspective, the past 20 years, there has been zero participation to help me keep the cars and the people taking care of business in and against my garage and my house and behind the house. That soccer fields are, from my perspective, oppressive. The doors are slamming outside my door, my house at 6 o'clock in the morning. That place is, I think it's difficult. Yes, the Tree Farm soccer fields were there when I bought the house. But I just didn't know that I needed to be somewhere else during the soccer fields. I've had 2 40-foot buses sitting outside my house, running the whole soccer weekend because they didn't want to drive in and get their buses dusty. But they don't mind spewing diesel into my house during that. So, and I drive diesel, so I know what that is, but it's oppressive to have those people trying to push their requirements onto the local neighbors. And yes, it's a rural area. If you want to from my perspective, from what I remember thinking of this property, if you could take this property and put it inside, in between the bleachers on the Essex High School football field, right north of the rink, and you'd fit that whole thing inside there. So now, that's a small area to fit a lot of homes, and we're currently a rural area. That is more congested than Indian Acres. And so it's more congested than the development that's next door to the Willie Fields. Or to, what is it, Grandview? Behind what used to be Midas. Those are about the same size as Indian Acres. Not those, but Indian Acres and that development are about that size, and this is a lot tighter from what I'm seeing on the map. And you go walk the grounds, it's tighter than Indian Acres. And I think it doesn't fit the characteristics of our existing neighborhood. The houses that are along Old Colchester were there before the sewer. And the town or the village made the decision to not bring sewer to those homes, probably because it didn't have the density to support the investment. I don't believe it's the responsibility of the local community or a new developer to do a function, to pay for and provide the sewer, if you want it mandated for the whole town or village or city or whatever we're calling ourselves, to have sewer capacity. That street has been a hanging chad since the sewer went in. And it's been on my perspective, it's the responsibility of the city, or the village, to bring that to the town, not Louis Galantis. So he needs to put that kind of a development in order to recoup his investment for getting rid of that property. Because my wife and I, we called the town when he put this up for sale. I wanted to buy that house and build another Holton house. But I couldn't do it because it was 300 grand to bring the sewer just to my house, which is halfway to that property. My septic failed in 23, and I spent 40 grand in pumping fees and design and putting a leach field in behind my house because I can't put it in the front in order to put a septic in. So I'm not connecting to that. And I have been asking since 2006 when I bought the house to get septic, or sewer rather. And I keep getting the blank stares like, oh, I'm not impressed.
So if you wanted to buy that property, the city is
I would have put
saying-
my own house on there.
but you
But
have to bring
the city said that I had to.
you have to
put-
bring the septic.
I have
mean
to put
the
septic.
sewer.
I have to put sewer in. I can't do a septic system.
Oh. That's interesting.
Was
that-
there,
is that like
I'm getting a little
I don't know
afield,
why.
but,
I don't know.
yeah.
what is the reason?
Because
for that?
everybody else has septic.
What is the
Can I
reason?
step
for that?
in?
Yeah.
So this is a requirement by the water quality superintendent who gets to set these policies. She has specified that we cannot accept new septic systems. So that is the reason that for development of this property, the sewer line extension is required. Also in the comprehensive plan, it specifies under the utility section that extensions of sewer lines are the responsibility of the developer, just to put that out there.
Right, but these houses and these homes were existing when the sewer went in.
I'm not sure we're on the same page. There is no current sewer line next to
Right, but
these
so there
parcels.
was no developer for my house. So
Yeah.
who's gonna put? I'm not a developer. The city never gave me sewer. So the sewer never gave Mark Logan the sewer. Never gave, was it John Bannock? Didn't give him sewer. Didn't give the Holton sewer. So if the city had brought the sewer in, it would be there. There wouldn't be. He wouldn't need to do this monstrosity in our little rural section of the city in order to recoup his expenses.
Yeah, I hear your concern. A big part of that is the financial responsibility of a project like that being taken on by the city. I don't have the full history of this roadway that this neighborhood obviously does, but I know that has been the water quality superintendent's position in terms of this area, and that's why the sewer line extension is tied to this project.
So somehow, in order to stay in character with the existing neighborhood, and you try to develop it without adequate density, you're actually prevented because the city has said you can't do a septic system.
All I know is that, when I've asked Chelsea about this area specifically, which does not have access to the city's sewer, we cannot permit new septic systems for any size of development.
Because we're special, because I'm stunned that would.
These were all subdivided, and septic was allowed before it was subdivided. So why is it not
Just
grandfather?
logically, you would imagine that if there isn't sewer there, you would be able to do a septic. Do you have a comment on this one?
My issue with the septic, not being allowed to do a septic or whatnot up there, is the fact it meets state requirements. I can go to the state will say I can put it in.
Yeah.
But you say I can't because of one person says, no, I don't like that. This isn't the city that's saying that. It's one person.
What we've always been told is because of the creek there, that it's a real problem to get.
Yeah,
The
so
sewer
you have
under the
is that the
creek.
impaired waterway creek? Is that,
Yeah, well, the creek with the
Well, and
bridge.
it's just, it's
Yeah.
deep.
It doesn't matter, it's a length.
yeah.
But
All right, so there's some research that I'm not, I don't have any background in that exactly, but
I still have,
it doesn't.
I've committed to another project, but I still have money available. I would buy that for today.
I can't
If-
tell you how many
No, I
times
know,
I've
but-
gone by Dave Holton's house and said, boy, wouldn't I love to buy
Right,
one of
but
those, right?
what's been preventing me is the 500 grand to put in a sewer, is to bring a sewer in for a responsibility that is the responsibility of the city. You're dumping that on the individual taxpayers instead of the community at whole.
Yeah.
Because you're saying that you can't put the sewer in because there's not enough homes to support it, is what you're saying. So you're denying the landowner the ability to improve his own property at a reasonable cost. Because one person, the water supervisor for the city, says no.
Yeah, there are a few issues wrapped up in this that we're not gonna be able to resolve tonight. That's probably the biggest one. And I feel like the city needs to come to terms with what is being asked for, from these homeowners and what we're asking from our own, planning staff. Not staff present, but I mean the planning commission. So back in, the last time I saw this, this is a tough one for me because the last time I saw this, a proposal for a development or a change in district zoning for this road, I was on the planning commission. And we chewed on it for a while, and I think we rejected it, saying no, because that tantamount to spot zoning, because the whole rest of the street is something else. And so I got to say, I am struggling with the concept of being able to come in some other way and pull it off, right? Even after the planning commission said, no, we're not changing the zoning on the street. So that's history I have, you guys don't have enough, so I apologize for that. But I thought I'd toss it out there because it's kind of germane to this, and it is germane to the bigger question, which is the character, and we've done this before on other projects when it involved how tall can a building be or something. And the rule was always you look at what's around it, and you can't have, like a whole bunch of one-story buildings and then put in a 5-story, right? That just, right? But you might be able to go with a 2-story or a 2.5-story and start to build some density that way. So I feel like, we're kind of in a situation like that here where the density that is the character of this neighborhood is gonna be completely overwhelmed by this project. Even if we like the project, the background of the neighborhood is different. And it's been consciously held that way by our own planning commission for years. And so to see this thing come and we all go, okay, fine, feels like we're breaking our own rule somehow. Or vision, right? Right now we have a vision. This is a neighborhood, has a special character. Hardly any of them left in the village, in the city, and now there's a possible way to do it. I'm sympathetic that some compromise would be more appropriate. But I'd love to hear more from the rest of the board on that.
I'm curious about R1 and other examples of R1 around the city. Like especially statistics about lot size. I think lot size is kind of what we're talking about in R1 versus.
It's more density and character than lot size.
It's not the numbers, it's the concept, it's the plan, it's not the code.
So
The one we just looked at on Maple Street, the project we just had was in the R1 district, correct?
So
Yeah.
they replaced a single-family home with another
That's R2.
single-family home.
R2, okay.
Which is half the minimum lot size required by R1, which is 15,000. We've been saying 1,500, but 15,000 square feet is the minimum lot size for R1.
Yep. So the fight between we want more housing meets this part of the village is a special character, and has been consciously kept that way.
This is the best way to, this is the R1
Um,
overview,
Yeah.
and then this is the map.
Okay.
So
And
that's
so
the
that's
R1
R1 around the school.
So I did some more math, but it's not really math. It's the notion that the playoff here is what's the allowed density versus what's the existing density, right? So we're gonna say the allowed density would allow up to 36 units. That's the math. But the character of the neighborhood, which is also important, almost sounds like it's 1 unit per acre.
Had
Right.
it in there.
Is that,
On that page you're holding up.
Yeah.
I feel like it was 4 per lot. 4 units per lot was the,
right? And the lot size could be
yeah, so
as
you
low as
could
1,500.
cut it and
Yeah.
then
Right.
cut it.
So if you went,
Right of ways and easements and accesses, because it's gotta be a subdivision.
yeah, well, it could be a subdivision. Really, I think the crux of it is, we're all sidetracked by if you call it a PUD, could you do this? And it seems like it's reasonable. But that's ignoring the forest for the trees again. I think that was a good comment, that the question should be, can you maintain the existing character of the neighborhood with X number of units? And I think, for me, that number tumbles from the 14 proposed down to 3 or 4. 3 per acre. Yeah.
What's the, did you do the math?
And I'm trying to be generous. Well, like 3 per acre keeps the status quo, and I think there's a sense that we want to try and allow a little more dense, but not, you've got to keep it. Again, remember the building height model, right? You can't go from 1.5 stories to 4.5 stories. You can go from, that breaks the character too far. You'd have to go from, 1.5 to 2.5, or maybe a short 3, right? So, but once you have that in there, if somebody else comes along and says, well, I want to, build something tall right next to it, then maybe you can start to see the evolution over time. But all at once is a game-changing character killer. So,
But I think based on the numbers, if you did subdivide it into 15,000 square foot, and then you did the maximum units, you could still get to this number based on the R1 guidelines.
yeah, mathematically, you can get to 36. I think what we're saying is, I don't know if
But
they
that was
could
the
actually
PUD
make
one.
that happen. It certainly would be a different character, but I don't know what it looks like, So they got to 14, and we know that it's completely overwhelms anything near it by quite a bit. So
I do want
guidance.
to point out that the R1 district's maximum density, this 4 units per lot, has changed over time. And that obviously comes with sensitivities as to when someone bought into the neighborhood, what their expectations are for that neighborhood, and I want to be very, very sensitive of that. But pointing out that 4 dwelling units per lot is state preempted, and that is trying to encourage housing development of this type across the state. And I understand this comes with a very difficult decision for you all to weigh, but that is kind of what's changed about R1 when you're weighing it against the existing neighborhood character. I think the important thing to recognize here is that the land development code is shifted in terms of what's allowable in R1 as opposed to the existing built environment.
Yeah, looking at this map of R1, these lots that we're talking about are probably 4 times the average lot size of an R1. And I'm guessing R1 has an average of 1 building per unit, per lot. Maybe there are a couple of outbuildings on some R1s,
Yeah.
but the average is
That's the
probably
general concept. R1 is large lot, single-family homes.
And so we would be saying
Not
that this
4
is
of
a
them, but-
different R1 than the other R1s.
We are saying this is completely different in terms of its current character, which I don't want to lose that as an important factor in our decision, because I think this is probably the only place in the city where this happens. That you have this size, and it's an odd spot. They have the train on the other side. You know, there isn't anywhere near the same opportunity for, cross currents and, connectivity with cars. And they're kind of cut off in a way with the train there, and they have the train to deal with, which they live with and have lived with. And now the soccer fields. But, the character of that side of the street, until you get down into the town where there are some multi-unit developments, is single-family homes on very large lots. I saw a number of hands go up, so I'll start.
I just wanted to mention that prior to Dan owning the home, Dan and Karen owning their home at 54, was Robin and Rosie Hallweedle, and Rosie had horses on her property. So
She had dogs, too.
lots of dogs. Lots of dogs.
Lots of dogs.
Yeah, so I mean it's
Many of our children went there for math help.
oh fantastic. Yes.
Yeah. Yes,
As did my daughter.
What it boils down to really is that lot there is being denied development unless they put sewage on it, bring the sewer line in. And that just goes against, in my mind, everything, because what it does is it makes it so they have to put something like this in.
yeah.
If they could put normal state-approved septic in on that, because it's in a totally separate area, they could put in homes, they could put in a number of homes in there, no problem, keep the character of the neighborhood.
I'm not
Do it at a reasonable cost.
I'm not the, I have no power to do any of this, but I would say that if a development like this wants to happen, it needs support from the city to help with the infrastructure, the planning commission to say that this is really okay, because I think they've said in their decisions, part of them I've been on the board for, that the vision is changing and that they're in support of it. Then the staff has to also support it. Then the DRB doesn't have to make a decision that supersedes everybody else's decision. Because that's the way I feel we're getting pressured into making this decision to say okay because everybody says housing, where nobody wants to support it by putting sewer there. The developer has no choice if they want to make this work. I think it would be a great development, don't get me wrong. I think, Bart's company does an amazing job. The materials in our packet were very compelling, but it's not the character of the neighborhood. So it's like saying, I'm going to build a skyscraper next to all these, short buildings. And so I'm compelled to probably say, no, it's too much on that lot until other factors change. And they could, and it may take a while. And I think it's unfortunate that we can't allow a development like that on a parcel if the developer is willing to come in and pay for the improvements and make it happen. But at the time in this in this neighborhood of this substantial character, which you can't find anywhere else in the city, it's too much. That's just my opinion. You guys are welcome to have,
The R1 is also the like countryside neighborhood, right? The Terram, all those. Because is it the R1 like overall vision within the city, or are we looking within just the 11 houses we have?
I think that plays a part, and I think actually probably Dan was the first one to mention this. There's a lot of language in the city governing plan, guiding document, which we don't usually bring to the table. We bring the LDC, the development code. But there is another document there, and there's a strength to the argument. Let's just say these were historic buildings and not buildings with large lots. The rules say that the character of that neighborhood, historic fabric, whatever, has to be a guiding factor in what comes next, right? So the rules actually say that the other characteristics of the neighborhood, density, lot size, are similarly important, right? And so our job isn't necessarily to say, okay, well, if you call it a PUD, then it works, right? I don't think that's what the guidance language is asking us to do. I think the guidance language says, evaluate all of the characteristics of these developable parcels, look at the neighborhood they're in. Is it historic? Are the lots bigger? What's the actual density there? And use those factors to guide your decision to maintain the character of these neighborhoods. And that is not what's happening here, even if you call it a PUD, it works. So I'm saying the density factor is a real factor. The guidance plan, the city plan, and the LDC tell us to protect those areas, and we should. So can you put 14? No. Can you put something that's a little more than 1 per acre? Sure. How far before you break the neighborhood character is really the decision, and I think we should look at it that way. Nick?
Can I comment on that?
Sure.
I hear the character of the area. I get it. I totally understand all those points being made, but we do have to weigh what's being required of this property to be developed. Bart and Colin don't want to come in and blow it out with 30 units. So they're trying to find this medium to fit in and also provide housing and extra infrastructure to the city.
Yeah, this is where I just want to say there is no. This is Vermont again, right? This is how we think. There is no drive to develop this property. The property is very happy to sit just the way it is. So you can't have self-inflicted damage. You can't say, well, I'm developing and it's going to cost me a fortune. So I need to have this many houses. That's not how it works. That's the math for developing, but there is no drive to develop this parcel, except that we do know we want housing. Right. And that's why I'm saying, no, this is important, because I have city staff here. If that's the city's goal, the city needs to step up a little, and it needs to change the rules so that the DRB isn't sitting here, overturning planning commission decisions and, the guidance that we're supposed to follow when we make these decisions, right? So I don't feel comfortable saying, go ahead, we love it. Even if we do love it, I think it doesn't match the guidance that we're supposed to be following.
When you say the rule, is it the sewer requirement specifically, or are there other rules that you'd like to look
that's
at?
a big one.
I would want to hear what the planning commission thinks of this in the overall context of why didn't we change the rules the last time somebody said, can we do it? And there wasn't a sewer problem at the time. That was just flat out, does this does it make any sense to change the development standards for one or more parcels along that section of road? And the answer was no, we're not doing it.
So that was a spot zoning issue that the planning commission decided on, correct?
So this, you can't say that this, if you show this as the evidence for what was gonna happen, they would, or if you wanted to know what it would look like if you spot zoned that parcel, this is a great example of what could have happened. And the answer at that point was no, so I feel really guilty sitting in the same chair that I was in when we said no before and saying, that decision doesn't matter. We found a way to do it, and so here we go. Right? You see what I mean?
I do understand your position. All I can point to is the density calculation that is in R1's base. I would point to that as planning commission telling you what they're looking for in R1, and this meets that density calculation.
Speed limit's 75, but that doesn't mean you have to drive 75.
What would you build if you didn't have the sewer line requirement?
Oh, it would allow for less units. I can't speak for Barton Column
Yeah.
what they want to do, but given the parameters that we have, this is what we're looking at.
I was gonna do one.
They could afford to do less units because they haven't got the $750,000 to do,
Yeah.
put sewage line,
Yeah.
sewer line.
3 years ago, it was $275,000 to come to my house,
That's halfway.
which is about halfway.
It's no cheap endeavor, I'll admit that. All I can point to is what's written in the comprehensive plan as to the city's ongoing efforts. I know that this is in the city's capital budget for several decades down the line, not a near future project.
Why are you saying that you're going to make a lot of exceptions in order to put this in? Why not make an exception to allow them to put the sewer systems in, leach fields in on site and build less homes there, and then down the road, 50 years, when you decide to bring sewer lines out there, then you can connect up. But as long as, you'll make exceptions for certain things, but you won't make exceptions for others. This is a simple exception to make, because it meets state standards.
And Otter Pond was what, tripled? And this behemoth back here behind Flanders, that is 3 times the size of Otter Pond. So I don't think we have a housing problem that requires my street to be overdeveloped.
Can I ask, and I don't know if the developer or the city might be able to say if a sewer is run on Old Colchester Road to support this development, what would happen to the cost for the existing homeowners if they wanted to connect to that sewer?
If they wanted to. So and it sounds like they do not want to, so I want to be very clear of that. They would not be required to.
Yeah.
As proposed, we're asking the developer of 60 Old Colchester Road to basically have a T connection off with a cap on it, so that if their septic fails, or if they want to connect to you, they could. I can't speak to what that financial hit looks like for each property owner, but there is currently a sewer allocation fee that every new connection to the city sewer system incurs.
So from an engineering standpoint, it's significantly more cost effective to tie into a T than a new system, soil-based system, like magnitudes of 10 less. It's just running a gravity sewer out, getting your state permit, and that's it, as opposed to a full engineered design of a soil-based system.
Right, but I'm still depreciating mine. So, I just bought one 3 years ago, and it could have been brought to me 50 years ago, 60 years ago, when sewer was brought to the town of Essex. Right? So, what does it cost? It's 40 grand I just spent. And then connect in when my septic is just working fine. Mark just put another one in as well. So, We just put new ones in.
What is the construction of a sewer line? Like, what does that look like for disruption to
Take the road up.
people on the road?
It's a transit
Oh,
road.
add some bumps.
Yeah.
School season or something?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, doesn't that, I mean, the road is not
Did you
very
see
big.
Iroquois Avenue?
Oh, yeah, I mean,
that
the-
was sewer, right?
yeah, so I mean, that's another factor, and, you know, the soccer is real. I mean, I've seen.
Yeah, it's not really part of our review.
No,
Sorry.
I agree.
It is real.
But it's a factor for if you live on that road and there's construction, that's a factor for at least a time being.
Yes, the soccer over there runs from sun up till sundown all summer long.
Yeah.
There's something happening over there.
So I'm gonna jump back in, and I'm gonna rope it back towards what John had said. No, it's fine. I'm just trying to rein us back. I understand the points and what's being said, and I hear a lot of compelling arguments, but I feel like Section 723 for the planned unit development is there to encourage more development. It explicitly says to encourage compact pedestrian-oriented development and redevelopment, and to implement the policies of the municipal plan, such as the provision of affordable housing, and to have additional housing in the area. And I think, while it does feel a little loopholey, I feel like it's written to be that, to encourage more building and to have a way to put more units on land. And I think it has call-outs for density, given different districts and different rules and things to do. And I feel like my interpretation of this and like my role here is to follow this code and what it says and to review applications based on that. And I think that's what this is saying.
I agree.
I'm also looking at this. So the underlying, one of the criteria in the first PUD section, which is up front, says that it's supposed to comply. It can be more flexible, but it has to comply with the underlying zoning of the district that it's in, right? Because it could be in R2, it could be somewhere else. It doesn't always have to be in R1. So PUDs in R1, the lot size and lot coverage we've been talking about, but it also has a limit of 4 units per lot. So it's still one lot, and why wouldn't 4 units be the maximum? Until you get to the PUD section, or you get density, you get the opportunity for density bonuses up to certain percentages for doing certain things. But it feels like instead of looking at this like you can have so many units per acre, we should be looking at you get so many units per lot. Like they're in conflict because one you get 36 on this, but on the other you only get 4. And I'm wondering which one wins and why. And I'm wondering if you wanted more units than 4, you would have to hit some of these density bonus targets, which, include preservation of natural resources and some other things. So,
I just want to quickly step in and point out that from the word lot perspective, the developer is proposing these to be sold as footprint lots. So they are actually legally individual lots surrounding the footprint of the building.
I read that slightly differently in that the footprint lot is a special definition of lot. It doesn't change the overall lot determination. It allows a sale of a postage stamp that's the size of your actual dwelling plus something else, so doesn't have to be a condominium, or that type of thing. It's a purely real estate arrangement. It has nothing to do with the lot. It's just still one lot. So, overall, it's still one lot.
I mean, there's precedent in Essex Junction, let's see, Nicholas Court, Roscoe, of PUDs, whether or not you feel like this is what should be done, that's what PUDs do, is they grant a developer flexibility if they meet these additional design challenges, the pedestrian connectivity and all that, the open space. That's what the PUDs are designed to facilitate. And I understand it feels like a loophole, but that's...
Well, it's not a loophole. I wrote that section.
Yeah.
So what, and let's say I rewrote it a couple of times, because I've had at least 2 whacks at it on the planning commission. And what we were finding is that the original language that was in the LDC for PUDs was not consistent, and it was confusing, and developers would come in and they wouldn't know whether they call it a PUD or not. And they didn't understand that the PUD flexibility was a trade-off. It's a deal that the city or the municipality says, if you give me these things that we are asking, that we're promoting, we want, that we're encouraging you to provide these, then we will give you these things. And so that's what all the density bonuses and but in order to be a PUD, you have to meet the basic stuff, like all the open space and the playgrounds and the connectivity. And those things are like, you don't even get to be a PUD until you understand that those have to happen. And then to me, I'm reading the density bonus in particular, because we're talking about density on this lot, as, okay, if you want a density bonus, now you got to look at the things that are actually written into the code that give you density bonuses for certain things, right? So PUD, you show up with all these goodies because we asked for them in order for you to be a PUD, superior design, yada, yada, yada. And then if you want more density than the base density allowed in the that district, then you have to provide additional things that we've asked for, is how I read that. Sure. And it's how I expected when I wrote it.
It sounds like the main thing we're maybe not in alignment on is you're viewing the maximum density in R1 as 4 housing units per lot, whereas as written, it says density requirements. And so that's how we got to the 4.4 dwelling units per acre as proposed.
Right. And I'm arguing because I don't know which wins. I feel like they're both in there. Mm-hmm. Like some of the other language that says you can only have 2 principal units per lot unless you're a PUD, right? This one doesn't say you can have 4 units per lot unless you're a PUD. It just stops. Doesn't say that, right? So I'm not sure. Technically, I'm looking for a way to say this is too much. As in my personal opinion, this wasn't what anyone had in mind when they said, this is allowable because you were going to say it's PUD. I think it does still ignore the other requirements that try to make something fit into an existing neighborhood. And this existing neighborhood is nothing like that building. And we haven't given that any weight yet.
I do want to be mindful of the fact that we're at 8:30. I want to kick that back to you all.
Wow, time flies. All right, so we're at the conceptual level. I've laid out a couple of things that are bothering me, and I think that, I don't know that the DRB is the right body to make all of the decisions. We're supposed to be, following what's already on paper and say we think this meets it or it doesn't meet it. And provide guidance to the applicants so that they can go figure out, what their next steps are. I guess I'm still fine with the development aside from the comments I gave you up front, but I am questioning the overall fit of this development in this neighborhood. And I'm not talking about whether it's R1 or anything else. I'm saying we have a neighborhood right now with a given character, and we're about to blow it apart with a development. And I'm saying, based on my experience and my years on the planning commission and my knowledge of decisions they've made in the past, I don't feel comfortable doing that. That would be mine. I think I would say that you're starting at a maximum of 4 units per acre. No, sorry, 4 units per lot, and possibly some density bonuses. would be as far as I'd be willing to go on allowing a development in that neighborhood. So I'm only one person. The 3 other board members here.
What prevents subdivision into multiple lots?
I mean,
Nothing.
nothing prevents it.
They could come in and do a regular subdivision here, then they'd be following the rules and they wouldn't, they'd have to have a certain street frontage and a certain, they may have to put streets in order to have enough street frontage to put lots in. But there's nothing. So the trigger to get the flexibility of the PUD is to meet the requirements that we laid out in the PUD chapter.
So if it were subdivided and it was, 1 house per lot and the lots were a third an acre, would that be in keeping with the character of the neighborhood?
I would say it would be tough because I think we heard this talked about, but if the rest of the character of the neighborhood is one principal structure per large lot, it's really one unit per acre pretty much, average of the neighborhood. So you might want to keep it pretty close to that, or even 1 per half acre or something. It would be tough to say you weren't changing the character of the neighborhood by creating another neighborhood inside that still had.
And I don't know, I guess I go back to if the planning commission wanted this to be 1 acre lots, why would they give it the same zoning code as all of these 1/4 acre and 1/3 acre lots all over the city?
We looked at it, again, it's been a few years since I was on the planning commission. I don't know what they say now, which is why I kind of want to at least give them time to react to this before we just say, too bad, this is how we ruled. They might be willing to make some kind of different case for this and give it different rules. But the intent at the time was to preserve the character of the large lots that were all up and down the street here, not to allow something like this.
I would again just point to I think the planning commission's kind of specified what they're looking for through the land development code. That's their main communication facilitation here. And the comprehensive plan, which specifies that a variety of housing types are to be encouraged in Essex Junction.
But I would read that as an architect to mean, they don't all want to look the same, where there might be some duplexes and some 3-story units and some, single-family homes and some duplexes, and, there's that kind of variety. I got some modern buildings, I've got some salt boxes, I've got some contemporaries, I got some capes, there's a lot of ways to read that. I always support a variety of housing types and a variety of housing options. I don't think that's really what we're talking about here. I think that's why I think that as a development, the development's very good. I think it met all the bells and whistles. What it didn't meet was the neighborhood character overall. It's not about any particular structure on it. It's about the fact that we're not anywhere close to the character of the rest of the neighborhood. And I guess I'm appreciative that the neighbors came forward trying to remind us.
Is the way that it's moving away from the 4 to lot with the 100% R1 increased because of the interpretation of each one being its own lot for the PUD?
Say that one more time, sorry.
I'm getting thrown on reading the section 723A, and then where we're saying the development review board can grant density bonuses and all that, and the numbers that were put forward that are way higher with the 36.
At no point is 36 mentioned in my staff report. So what you're looking at, that 100% density bonus is grantable if the developer requests it. The applicant has not asked for density bonuses.
So-
Staff's interpretation of how a PUD grants additional flexibility is reading the language which says all PUDs must meet the density requirements of the residential district in which it is located. In R1, you're allowed 4 homes per lot. The minimum lot size is 15,000 square feet. And that's how you get to an effective maximum residential density of 11.6 dwelling units per acre. This is,
No, that's,
yeah.
that's where I was, thank
Yep.
you.
Yeah, I just decided not to do any math and stop at, after rereading it, stop at 4 lots per acre. No, 4 units per lot, right? That's where it starts. You can have 4 units per lot.
Right,
It doesn't say if you have more acres, you can make that bigger.
And again, I would point out that this is not how PUDs are typically applied. A more recent example would be Robbins Way, where 6 homes were put on a single parcel. Further down Maple Street, Sienna Lane, plenty of examples of single lots where you've got, you're going above the number of homes that are permissible, and instead using that calculation of, does it meet the density of that residential
okay,
district?
thank you.
Yeah.
Remind me what the outcome of this is. We either approve or deny,
Or you can vote to continue the hearing to the next meeting date. In all instances, I would just ask for more clear direction. What do you want staff to bring forward? What do you want to have us work with the applicant on? What am I asking the planning commission? Because I've heard a lot of different threads, and
Yeah.
it sounds like I need to have a conversation with Chelsea as well about the water quality rules. Clarify with her, because it is for the preservation of our water resources. That's why we don't approve new septic systems. So if you're challenging that, I need to know specifically what I'm coming to ask of her as well.
Yeah, and I guess I'm saying if we want to allow something that has a different character to enter that neighborhood, is the city willing to pony up anything for infrastructure? Right, and I know it's on their list, but I feel like saying, look, if you want to do this, fine, but don't make everybody else on the street suffer, and now somebody comes along willing to build enough houses to amortize the cost of that structure in a private method and say, guess what, here we go. So for me though, the real question is what does the planning, I have 2. I think I have 2 key questions. What does the planning commission think of this, and does it in effect short circuit their view of this neighborhood character?
When you say think of this, can we be more specific? Are there aspects of this plan, or should we just toss the whole application at them?
It's the number of units.
Number of units, okay.
In the, versus the character of the neighborhood.
Got it.
So that's one. And the second one is, can we get clarification on what the governing density rule is supposed to be? Is it 4 units per lot? Or can we translate that into the numbers that you've put down? Like if the lot's bigger than 15,000 square feet, does that affect the number of units per lot?
Okay.
Right, because I don't think that's clear. To me, it says 4 units per lot and I'm done. And I don't care how big the lot is because it didn't say do the math. It just says you can have 4 units per lot. So if they meant 4 units per 15,000 square feet, that's a different deal. If they meant 4 units per lot, because this is R1, not multifamily or high density or any of the other things, I want R1 intent is single family homes on large lots to be the intent. because this is not exactly single-family homes on large lots in the same way. There's a
Sure. I would just point out that the language for the purpose statement of R1 single-family homes on large lots no longer matches what the state of Vermont requires of us. Again, state statute requires that we administratively at our front permit desk allow 4 dwelling units on any one lot in this district now. So in this upcoming LDC update, we need to change that language because, again, someone could come in and ask for a 4-plex and have Terry approve it.
And all of that is good to know, and all of that is very important for the current neighborhood owners to know, because their lives are going to change depending on how we see this.
Yep.
And that's why I'm asking for more input from the rest of the people who thought about this before, given the fact that the state continues to basically impose different rules on our own local zoning.
Sure.
That we aren't able to get out of. Like I haven't really supported that because, I think it's fine if you don't have zoning, the state can make up some rules, but where you've spent almost 2 decades working with your municipality to come up with zoning requirements because that's what your municipality wants, I don't think it's necessarily fair to have that overthrown by the state, but different story. So those are my 2 requests from staff to get clarification on how to apply the LDC. And so I'll ask should I ask the applicant? I think it's fairer to the applicant to continue this and come back later when we have these answers, because currently I would not be able to support the project. So I don't, maybe you can, if we continue it, we can get some answers and we can come back.
Yeah, you have to make a motion to continue this public meeting and specify the date of that meeting.
Okay, so we have that option, or we can take a vote tonight and come up with yay, nay, or yay with changes, right? It doesn't really matter. We're just making, since it's only conceptual, we're only giving you guidance. We're not,
Yeah, I think we should continue.
What happens if it's a tie?
So with Dylan gone, you need 3 yay votes for this to pass conceptual anyway.
Okay.
yeah. So it would just kind of, what happens if it does tie though? It just tie?
Well,
It doesn't get approved.
You would
It's
still
not-
you would still not have
Fail.
3. So
Yeah.
it would be denied.
Other board members?
I mean, I would like to continue it, or I wouldn't approve it.
Are there any questions that you had outside of what John asked for?
No, I
You'd
think
like
I
to
agree.
continue?
I think I agree with I think the project is good, and I like the building and the development, but I don't think it fits. There's too many with where it is. I don't think it fits, and the sewer part, and there's a couple of, yeah.
So I'm going to move that we continue it to the next month.
Which would
How
be,
does that work with because it's still a conceptual plan then, even
I think
next
it
month?
Doesn't it leave
Just
it
continue
open?
it. Okay.
It leaves this public meeting that has been opened, or is this a public hearing?
Yeah, just a public hearing.
Yeah, I think it's just a public meeting, but it leaves this open and then this continues. So when you make the motion, just say Thursday, May 21st. You have to specify the date for
Okay.
open meeting law.
Yeah, then I move that we continue this public hearing until Thursday, May 21st.
And do we have to, any of the questions that we wanted answered, or do we have to say that, or no?
No, I think
Okay,
you've
we're
got
good.
the questions.
I've got
Yep.
them written down, so I'm just going to go
Okay.
work on those.
Okay.
Seconded.
And then for discussion before you make a vote, can I just get at least conceptual guidance on the other asks, the T-shaped road, the landscaping concepts, It sounds like you like the pedestrian easements, just more guidance on the proposal overall.
I was okay without the T-shaped road. I think
Yeah,
the
no, yeah.
Reasoning behind that was valid.
We don't find the T-shape, we
Yep.
don't find the planning
Necessary.
for a future extra road is necessary, so.
Yeah,
no
I
on
agree
that.
with that.
Okay, that's all.
We like the PUD, I wrote all these down for you. The PUD, open space and accessibility for the public and continuity and future connection to the public amenities, mostly the path, should be definitely part of the
Yeah, the public access.
guidance, right?
Okay.
It's important to me that the neighbors be able to use this space,
Yes.
if only as a change of pace when you're walking your dog.
I think too, as an added, like if you're running in Tree Farm, and you can like.
It needs
dip
to be
in and go
public, yeah,
around.
yeah.
I think sidewalks for me in like a little spot like that,
Yeah.
especially if people would have kids
Yeah.
within the
Yeah.
cul-de-sac would be
Yeah.
Yeah.
beneficial
Yep.
for the idea behind it.
Okay.
Honestly, this seems like a solution to the people who are stopping in Old Colchester Road and dropping their kids off.
Put a-
That they would
Put a
turn
bus
into
stop
this and drop their kids off in this.
Yeah,
As built, all utilities are underground.
whole new problem.
They're gonna say, they're gonna have a sign that says, "Do not drive in here."
The
Like-
thing is, there's an easy drop-off spot in the, I guess they could improve it, but there's a drop-off spot in the tree farm, which is,
No, there's not.
Yeah, it is.
No, nobody knows it. Nobody uses it.
I've told.
oh,
wait.
there's at least two ways to do it, cause, but people, you're right, they don't feel like doing it. They get lazy,
Back on track, John.
yeah.
Sorry.
Any other questions for us, Michael?
How do we feel about these conceptually from a landscaping perspective? I'm obviously going to get tree advisory involved for conceptual and final, but just want initial takes on if this looks.
Yeah, I thought it
Agree.
was fine.
Agree.
We've usually found, and I think this was alluded to by the presenter, that Nick, that when they start working with individuals who are purchasing these homes, the landscaping gets beefed up at each individual one, so they don't all end up looking the same. The street trees that we're showing are, they seem to be a little stylized in terms of, I got my little entry things and I have them around the circle, but that's not bad. I mean, that could be really nice. In fact, I know a lot of people that love this style of development, just having a nice cul-de-sac, it's very desirable. So if it's usable, it's got some shade trees, there's probably a few benches somewhere, mom comes out and watches the kids. I've seen, playground sets and, other amenities for children. Like the thing I see missing, is, where do the kids play, right? Because, you hope they're out there playing and not hiding in their rooms playing video games, right? Sorry, editorial. And then there was a thing on, so we talked about the sidewalks. We like more sidewalks around the loop, and I at least talked about curbs. I'm not in love with curbs. I understand that if the sidewalk is right on the street, then the curb is a good thing. If the sidewalk gets developed in a different way, we may not need any more curbs.
Happy to defer that to the city engineer on if
Yeah.
it's needed.
Same.
That's
Yeah.
Well,
my-
no, the engineers are gonna want curbs. If it's a private street, they can't really ask them for those, right? Is that how it works? You don't have to build it to city standards.
In my conversations with the city engineer about this proposal, he's fine with it as proposed, with curbing just where the sidewalk is and not in the other parts of the development.
Yeah. And I'm trying to find a way to have sidewalks that don't bring curbs.
Yeah, you're
with
saying push
Yeah.
it back,
Yeah.
so there's a gap, so you don't need a curb, but you get the sidewalk.
them.
Are you saying for that within the development or on Old Colchester Road or both?
Yeah. Just
I was more
in
within the development.
Yeah.
I
Within the
think that
development.
sidewalk that's proposed is great.
Okay.
And it helps a little
My
bit.
two sidewalk sense, I live on the old Willie Farm. Our neighborhood is incredibly similar to this. And we don't have sidewalks we all walk our dogs in the middle of the street. We all walk down the middle of the street. We basically live in a pedestrian zone. You can't drive faster than 10 miles an hour anywhere in that neighborhood
And you won't hear
because
either.
there are not sidewalks.
Yeah.
So I kind of am a convert to no sidewalks at all.
Yeah. I walk.
Got a 7
Our
and a
dog,
5-year-old that
our,
likes
our neighborhood
sidewalks.
has sidewalks. The next one over that I have to go through the connected path doesn't have any sidewalks. So you're in the street and it works great either way. It's been fine. Actually, the cars are go faster on the streets where there are curbs
Yeah.
and sidewalks than they do where there are people likely to be in the street. Interesting that, and here's the new neighborhood, right? Yeah.
1951.
Back on track.
All right. What else was on your list, Michael?
I think that's it.
That was it.
Nick, anything else you wanted to clarify before we have them?
Lighting was the street lights. I kind of
Street light.
talked about those a little bit, but I didn't hear anybody else.
Can we do a waiver? Is there?
Apparently we.
The DRB ultimately approves the lighting plan. Historically, we've leaned on the city engineer to say, yes, this lighting plan looks good. So, I mean, we do have input on the plan itself.
Yeah, I agree with the neighbors that streetlights would seem to be out of character with the area. But we don't want to then defer to the houses to just have garage lights, which would then not conform. So I think I would want to see a way for the garage lights to be conforming as written in.
Yeah, I could see there being, the ones that were proposed here were kind of on the outside of the loop, but there is one on the inside. I mean, you could imagine that the center, the drainage treatment area maybe had the lights and not the houses, but I guess we're willing to be swayed either way on that.
Okay.
I'd also probably defer to the city engineer on that one.
Don't want to do that.
Why?
Because they're gonna engineer it and not
I'm
think
not an
about it.
engineer.
It's not gonna be, they don't have a choice, it just gets math. Like, I need this many foot candles.
It's only 95% math.
We're going for character, not math. Right? It's a private street if we do this.
But if they say it's not enough light, I'm gonna trust them.
Out.
I
Is
don't
that,
know.
should I not?
My street is super dark. I love my super dark street.
And I have a street light right outside my
So do I.
window on and it's unbelievable. You need blankets on your windows to sleep. All right, so we're sidetracked again. We're flexible on the lighting. We'll see what the engineers have to say, and we may choose to modify it given.
Tell them what's up.
Well, no, here's the thing. So
I'm sorry.
when the development shows up, in whatever form it shows up, we want the development to express a character that is desired by the people that will live there and those affected by it. And that isn't a mathematical answer. Every time I've had a municipal engineer tell me how it has to go, I was unhappy about it. I'm sorry.
That's a tattoo.
It might be. It's a long-standing argument, yeah. Does that give you enough to go on, Mike?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
Very helpful.
So we have a motion to continue until our next meeting on May
21st.
Any more discussion?
Nope.
All in
I
favor?
second that. All right. Do you have to second it? Oh, you did.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Great back and forth. This is a difficult decision because of the impact it has to existing, the neighborhood. Does it want to be on record or?
Yeah, actually, I mean, I don't care.
Do you need an escort? You okay?
He needs to get wastewater, water, fire protection, I think. What about Act 250?
No Act 250. Let me just look at my list here.
There's no real fire protection either.
No fire protection. It's water system, potable water supply, so wastewater permit, the stormwater construction general permit, the stormwater operational permit, and the public water supply permit.
And why not Act 250?
It's
It's been a while since I worked with it, so.
Yeah.
it's right.
Are we already in an area designated to have enough rules that they don't need any more?
I believe
Yeah.
this falls under
Yeah.
the exemption list for housing.
I'd be surprised. Not the way I read the map. I saw the map that this lot is the last lot in the buffer zone to the designated area, which means it's good for priority residential development. And I don't think this fits the rules for that.
Okay.
But priority has to do with affordability, and I don't know that any of these units have been set aside to be considered affordable under any guidelines. And that's what it takes to be exempt from Act 250 in the buffer zone. So I suggest you get a jurisdictional opinion from the District 4 Commission on that.
that's standard for us to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about floodplain? Is there a floodplain thing?
No, floodplains.
No.
It's like this, the core of the city is designated growth area, right?
Mhm.
So then they have a buffer that I think is a half a mile,
Okay.
painted on the map. And 90% of the subject parcel is in that buffer. In that buffer, Act 250 interim exemption allows exemption from Act 250, but only for priority residential development. I don't think this fits priority, so I guess you look at that. before you come back to it.
Yeah, they're playing with the rules again, but I think that's probably a reasonable reading at the moment. And it's difficult.
Quick question.
Yeah.
If the character of the street is houses have septic, does the water lady get to override that?
I wouldn't have any idea. I-
override state
In the state?
Well, I want to say that the way that I understand it at the moment is that the surrounding waterway is contributing to the decision, and it's not a state rule. But I don't know that. I was unaware that that there had been denials of septic systems. Like all of a sudden you have a parcel that's essentially undevelopable if that's the case, because no one, without doing something like this, yeah.
You're denying the owner the right to develop it
In a reasonable manner, yeah.
in a reasonable manner.
So that would be, I think it's worth looking at that and finding out how that rule got enacted, or whether it's a hard and fast thing, or whether it's, how that came about.
I agree, because I remember when you came in and asked about your property, and I've pressed for more clarification on this rule, so I promise to continue asking about that.
If it meets state requirements, it's denying,
Yeah.
if I can meet state requirements, or anybody can meet state requirements, why can we be denied?
It's a great question. Like I said, I will continue to ask for you.
If I went to the state and asked them, what are they gonna say? The state may just, if I went to them, they may just say, no, they can't deny it, you meet the requirements.
Anyone else online, Michael? Anyone?
We've got several people online, no one raising their hands.
Okay. So I guess we'll close the public meeting, the vote's over, we're all set with that?
We are not closing the public meeting for the minutes. We have voted to continue the public
Never
meeting.
mind.
Darby,
I'm
please don't
closing
write that.
comment in this current version of it, 'cause we're done with it. We'll listen to anyone with more comments later. I have to watch out for that. Other development review board items? Tonight? Too late?
There's a whole plethora of great city projects. Check out essexjunction.org to look them over.
And they're looking for input on them. That's good public comment time. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, we're adjourned.